past the hour on this Monday morning. We're jumping into today's talker.
Today we're talking about rip currents. Rip current safety has been on the mind of folks because last week we started highlighting rip current safety across the Gulf Coast. This week we're continuing that trend because now it's March and we do have the opportunity for a lot of folks to come down here for vacation. And so as we're taking a look here behind us, you notice the yellow shade. This is what we've got today. That means yellow flags across most of our beaches. And that's going to be a moderate risk for folks here on the Gulf Coast. And you know, rip currents here in Northwest Florida, one of the biggest killers. And as we take a look at rip current deaths over the previous 15 years, notice what's going to immediately become apparent is that there are a few deaths sprinkled in there across the Gulf Coast in areas which flank us, but here in Florida, we see quite a bit of those as well. And even take a look at the Great Lakes region where you've got rip current risk and deaths in the teens there. But as we add in the next couple, notice Alabama starts getting quite dangerous up there once you get north of Georgia, Texas, and then take a look at Florida, 242 rip current deaths over the past 15 years.
You know what? I didn't know rip currents could happen in lakes. I didn't know that was a thing.
Really?
Well, the rip currents happen up there in the Great Lakes because it's just so big. It's almost like it's an ocean. And you think about the chop here of the Gulf waters, how you have the waves at about 5 to 10 seconds sometimes. Up in the Great Lakes, they happen a lot more quick.
Yeah, and you know, Trey, I've got to tell you, this is a little embarrassing for me, but a couple years ago, I wasn't super familiar with rip currents. Was on a paddleboard, got pulled out into one, and was stuck out on the water on this paddleboard for about 2 hours. Got real burnt.
Goodness.
I was with a friend who's from Georgia, also not familiar with rip currents, and we were trying to get back and we were doing it wrong. What's the correct way to get out of a rip current?
If you get in a rip current, you're not going to want to fight it. Don't try to go directly against it. You're going to want to try to get on your back or swim out of it. You want to swim out towards the sides. You want to go parallel to the rip current, which is how you do that. But yeah, it's quite dangerous, and these happen frequently, and even in days when you have green flags, which we don't see very often here anymore because there's always the risk for a rip current. So they've opted to use a lot of yellow flags now instead of going with green sometimes, because we had a spring break a couple years ago where a lot of folks came out from the Midwest. They hadn't seen waves, they hadn't been to the beach, and they didn't realize that it was that dangerous. They didn't know what a rip current was, they didn't know how to spot it, and they thought because there were green flags that they could fight against what they determined eventually was a rip current. Not the case with the fatal consequences.
And real quick, how can we spot a rip current?
So if you want to spot a rip current, what you're going to do is look for this area in between two breaking waves, which have a graphic you'll see in just a little bit, which does show how they pull out towards the sea, and you kind of see a pathway towards the middle. But here's a quick look at a few different statistics. You have about 242 drownings in Florida since 2010, 35 in Panama City Beach alone. 14% of statewide drownings happen right here in our area as well. So as Mia asked, here's your rip current. If you want to spot it, notice that area right there under the red line. The sea comes in, then it pulls back out, and that's right where those arrows are is what a rip current is going to look like from the air. It's kind of harder to see from the ground and from the sand or in the water as well, but that's kind of what you're going to want to do. You want to go through the blue lines instead of fighting it itself.
Okay, wow, lots of great information. Thank you so much, Trey. And Mia, you bring up a good point. Even if you are born and raised here and spend a lot of time at the beach, you want to make sure you are paying attention to those flags. We'll be right back.